Hello everyone, here is Radovan from BSS. Set up Red Hat networking without Network Manager. This is old-fashioned method which old guys, very experienced guys are using. Network Manager is preferred network setup and configuration method by Red Hat these days, but setting up network without Network Manager is easy to set up and it's proven to work. It may be better to master Network Manager configuration and setup using Network Manager as it is Red Hat preferred method now, but network setup and configuration using network scripts and network service is still working very well. If you want to learn how to set up and configure network using Network Manager, please see description of this video, where you will find links to video tutorials about setting up network using Network Manager. If you don't know how to set up and configure network, you cannot pass RHCSA exam because other tasks depends on working network setup. So, what we have to do first is to stop Network Manager service and disable it from startup after reboot. We will use commands systemctl stop Network Manager and systemctl disable Network Manager, and we can verify if Network Manager is really disabled to start after reboot, so we will use systemctl is -enabled Network Manager. Then we have to populate our etc hosts file /etc/hosts file with IP address, hostname and fully qualified domain name of our Linux server. Then we need to modify and edit /etc/sysconfig/network-scripts /ifcfg-eth0 file or file related to our network device, which can be ifcfg-eth1 for example. So entries which have to be configured in this file is device name, so device is equal eth0, then hardware or MAC address of our Ethernet adapter, so HWADDR entry. Then nm_controlled is equal no, BOOTPROTO is equal static, ONBOOT is equal yes, and then IP address, so IPADDR entry, NETMASK, broadcast. If you have difficulties to calculate network and broadcast address, or if you need to transform network prefix to NETMASK, please use ipcalc command and check description of this video, where you will find a link to video tutorials about ipcalc command, which is very easy and efficient tool to calculate network and broadcast address and transform network prefix to NETMASK or NETMASK to network prefix. Then what we need to do is to configure /etc/sysconfig/network, where we have to ensure that our gateway is specified here. Another important configuration file is /etc/resolv.conf, and we need to specify here search entry and name servers. Search is used for completing a given query name to a fully qualified domain name when no domain suffix is supplied in our search. And name server entries are entries for our DNS servers. In this case we are using Google DNS server 8.8.8.8, and as secondary DNS server we use Open DNS server 208.67.222.222. Then when /etc/sysconfig/network-scripts /ifcfg-eth0 file and /etc/network file and /etc/resolv.conf files are configured, we need to restart network service and verify that it is enabled to start after reboot. So we will use systemctl restart network command, and we will use systemctl status network command to double check status of network service. And then we will use systemctl is-enabled network command to verify that network service is enabled to start after reboot, and if it is not, we can use systemctl enable network command. After performing these steps, your network should be configured successfully, so we need to verify our networking. Please use IPA command to double check IP address, IPADDR command to double check routing table. You can do also some additional steps and double check network configuration with ifcfg and netstat command, but these commands are not available in minimal installation of Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 7 server, so you will need to install them with installation of net-tools package. Once net-tools package is installed, you can use ifcfg to double check IP address and netstat command to double check routing table. You should also double check your DNS configuration. So please install bind utils package, which will provide you with nslookup and dig command, and use nslookup to translate domain name to IP address. So for example, nslookup redhat.com, and you can use also dig command for the same purpose. So for example, dig redhat.com command. You should also use well-known ping command and ping some remote server to ensure that your network configuration is working fine. Please check description of this video, where you will find the links to another RHCSA Fast Track video tutorials and other important and useful video tutorials. In this hands-on video tutorial, I will show you how to set up Linux Red Hat 7 networking without using NetworkManager, so we will use only old traditional network service. First, what we have to do is to stop NetworkManager, disable NetworkManager from startup after reboot, and verify that NetworkManager will be disabled after reboot. So systemctl stop NetworkManager, systemctl disable NetworkManager, systemctl is enabled network manager. So now we see that the network manager is disabled and it will not start after reboot, and also verify status of network manager, systemctl status network manager. So network manager is inactive, it is not running, and it will not start after reboot. So second thing what we can do is to check etc hosts file, and we can see that in our etc hosts file we doesn't have entry for our localhost, which is elixservo1, so we can add it via etc hosts, and we will add our entry here, which is IP address will be 172.16.99.201, and the host name is elixservo1, and the fully qualified domain name is lxserver01.domain 99.private.com. Okay, let's double check etc hosts file. Okay, so here is our entry, our IP address 172.16.99.201 and hostname lxserver01 and fully qualified domain name lxserver01.domain99.private.com. Second thing what we have to do is to edit interface configuration file for network device ETH0. So let's go to etc sysconfig network -scripts. So cd etc sysconfig network scripts -scripts, and we have couple of files here, and ifcfg -ETH0 is interface configuration file for the device ETH0, which was actually populated by NetworkManager, which we have just stopped. So let's look what NetworkManager did, what job NetworkManager did, how NetworkManager configured ifcfg -ETH0 file. So this is how NetworkManager populated ifcfg -ETH0 file. We can see that boot protocol is DHCP, so IP address was obtained from DHCP server, and other configuration which NetworkManager did. So what we can do, we can backup this file. So I recommend you to backup this file in your production environment or on your exam. We need to give some prefix here, otherwise that file will be loaded with NetworkManager or network service. So we can call it, let's say, back ifcfg -ETH0.default. So we have prefix back and suffix default. Alright, and now we can actually edit our ifcfg -ETH0 file. So, in your exam, they will probably try to make life difficult for you, so you may not have anything here. It can be clear file, so when you check this file now, there's nothing. It can happen on your exam to don't give you any hints, so it can be clean file. So let's start to edit it. You really need to have only few entries here. One of them is hardware address, MAC address. So let's use IPA command to give you your Ethernet, your MAC address, your hardware address to this file, to redirect output of IPA command to ifcfg -ETH0 file. So IPA grep. You can see here that we have some IP address which was obtained from the DHCP server by NetworkManager, but we are going to change it. So IPA pipe grep ether and append it to ifcfg-eth0 file, and now we can edit ifcfg-eth0 file. So we need to put first entry, which is called HWADDR. So HWADDR for hardware address MAC address. So we have first entry, which is our hardware address MAC address, which you need to have in this file, in this configuration file. Second entry which you need to have is device name. So device name is ETH0. Third entry which you need to have in our case is network manager controlled is equal no, because in our case we don't use network manager to manage our network, we will use old traditional network service. So network manager controlled is equal no. Fourth entry which you need to have is boot protocol, which is not DHCP anymore but static. Boot proto is equal static. Then fifth important entry is ONBOOT is equal yes, which means that you want to have device bring down during the boot, activated during the boot. And now we need to set our IP address, so IPADDR, which is 172.16.99.201. Then you need NETMASK, which is in our case 255.255.255.0. In description of this video you will have a link to my another video about ipcalc program, which is very useful tool which transforms network prefix to NETMASK and vice versa. ipcalc tool will calculate network and broadcast for you as well. Then we can use network configuration here, which is 172.16.99.0 and broadcast, which is 172.16.99.255. In that ipcalc video presentation, which link you can find in description of this video, you will also see how to get network address and broadcast address. So please watch that video and it will really help you in your production or exam. So we can save this configuration file, we can double check it, cut ifcfg-eth0, and we can see here our MAC address, our name of our device, network manager, controlled no, boot protocol static, not dynamic, not DHCP, ONBOOT yes, IP address, NETMASK, network, and broadcast. Now what we need to do is to set up our gateway, and we can do that using another configuration file. So vi etc sysconfig/network, and you can see in this file in etc sysconfig network that there's nothing, and what we have to add here, we can add networking is equal yes, and the import on this gateway. So gateway is equal 172.16.99.1. So let's double check this file. And we can see that we have networking equal yes, and our default gateway is set to 172.16.99.1. So now another configuration file which we need to take care of is /etc/resolv.conf, where we specify our DNS servers. So vi etc resolv.conf, and we have here some entries created by NetworkManager, but we need to change them. So search will be domain name of our domain, which is domain 99.private.com. So domain 99.private.com, and the name server will be, we can use Google DNS server, which is 8.8.8.8, and the second name server we can use OpenDNS server, so 208.67.222.222. Okay, so now we have our DNS server set. We can triple check cat etc resolv.conf, and we have our domain, so domain 99.private.com. So you can see here our DNS servers, which is Google DNS server 8.8.8.8 and Open DNS server 208.67.222.222. So now we have all our networking configured. So what we have to do is to restart a network service. So systemctl restart network, systemctl restart network. Then we will check status of network service, systemctl status network. You can add here network.service, network, here is small typo, network service, so it's active. You can query status of network or start or restart or stop or disable or enable network service or any service with systemctl status network or systemctl status network.service. Net.service is actually added by default, but if you have or if you face some troubles that it will not work, you can try .service. So now what we have to do after restart of network service, we need to ensure, we need to double check that network service will start after reboot. So systemctl is enabled network, and it is enabled, network service will start after reboot. So now what we have to do, we have to check our IP address if it was correctly picked up. So IPA we can see that our IP address is 172.16.99.201 with a /24. This is what we actually wanted, what we set, so everything is set up correctly. Now we need to check if our default gateway was set up correctly, so IPADDR command. And we can see here that our default gateway is 172.16.99.1, which is what we set. So we will use IPA command to double check our IP address and IPR command to double check our gateway. Then what we can do, we can also install some old tools like ifcfg and netstat commands and nslookup and dig to double check another network configuration, and do it also older method. So yum install nettools package. We need nettools package for ifcfg and netstat commands. So nettools package was successfully installed, which means that we will have our ifcfg and netstat commands available. So ifcfg -a, and we see here our IP address 172.16.99.201 for Ethernet ETH0 device. We can do ifcfg ETH0 and we will have the same output, but we will filter it only for ETH0, Ethernet 0 device, and we filter out, we will not display loop bug adapter. So now we can use netstat -r to see our routing table. So we see here that our default gateway is actually called gateway, which doesn't say much, so we can use netstat -rn to don't translate IP addresses to host names, and we can see here that our default gateway in our routing table is 172.16.99.1, which is default gateway which we have set in /etc/sysconfig/network file, which is good. So now what we can do, we can try to check our DNS setup. So we will need to install another package, bind utils, and with bind utils package we will get programs, commands, nslookup and dig. So we can try nslookup redhat.com, and we see here that our DNS server is 8.8.8.8, which we want, and it correctly translates redhat.com server to its IP address. We can use also dig command to query the same redhat.com, and we see here in answer section IP address of redhat.com server, and at the very last stanza we can see server, which is 8.8.8.8, which is correct DNS server which we set. Now we can ping redhat.com server, and ping is successful. So now we proved that we can ping redhat.com server, which is a remote server, so our network is set up correctly and we can log into LXServo1 server using PuTTY or any other SSH client. So I'm going to log in to LXServo1 from my terminal on my laptop. SSH 172.16.99.201. We are going to log in for first time, so we need to accept SSH key and add it to our known hosts. Fine. And password. And now I proved that networking of our server was set up successfully. That networking on our LXServo1 server was set up successfully using method without NetworkManager. Please check description of this video for links to other RHCSA video tutorials and other important and useful video tutorials. Thanks for watching, guys. Please leave questions and comments below, like my video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.